It's 3 o'clock. I think everybody's here. Just a quick reminder on your microphones, when you speak, make sure they're green. If you aren't speaking, you can turn it off and it'll turn red. And just direct your voice directly into the microphone so that the recording picks that up. Okay? And we're ready when you are.
Okay, at this time, let's call the meeting to order. Next thing in the agenda is the appointment of Brian Dunn.
Yes, Chief Dunn has already taken his oath. He's taken his training, and so he's was approved by City Council a few council meetings ago, I believe. So he's on board and ready to go.
Excellent. Sounds great.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Approval of the minutes of the previous meeting there. Have a chance to look at it, hopefully. Any questions?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Moving on to look at the daily action log.
Since we had our last meeting, very recent, there's not much on the daily action log. If you have any questions, we can answer those. The only thing that I added to the log that's different from what we sent you earlier in the week is that very last item. We will be beginning the meet and confer process with the police department in April. Our first meeting will be April 12th.
Very well.
I have one thing I wanted to discuss during the action log. I don't know if you guys are aware, have heard of House Bill 2925, but what it does is it makes all law enforcement and fire departments, municipalities with a population over 25,000 as civil service, which doesn't seem like it would affect us, except it would remove our ability to ever repeal civil service. So in the future, if the civil service laws became such that we no longer wanted to be under them, we would have no ability to do anything besides be civil service. So it effectively is putting more of the control over local police departments under the state legislature and away from the local governments. And I thought it was important just to point out that bill, so if anybody has any strong feelings about it, they can talk to their appropriate people.
Very well. No questions?
No, I move we approve the daily action log.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, moving on now to discussion on the local government code 143, section 143.003, definitions. We'll be
Okay,
considering some revisions.
Yes, for section 143.003 definitions, as it applies to section 2 of the local rules. We have had this discussion several times, and this will allow us to.
Go ahead and read the second caption for number 7 as well. The two items are very related, and I think it'll be helpful to be able to discuss them at the same time. So number 7 is discussion of local government authority. Those issue visible requirements in section 111, medical requirements of firefighters and police officers.
No, that's fine. So as Teresa stated, they really are all connected. So there's a definition in the local rules which indicates under eligibility list that defines a candidate versus an applicant, in a sense. So eligibility list indicates the list of candidates for a position who have taken the examination and passed, ranked on the list in the order of the score received. There's a section 143.002 indicates that cities, civil service cities are supposed to have a physical requirement for, in this case, applicants. And so we needed to, and we've discussed this before, we needed to define what an applicant is versus a candidate so that we can determine what the commission can require of one or the other. And at what point do we administer those physical requirements? Is it when they apply? At what point do they become either an applicant or a candidate? Part of the discussion had been that if we test everybody that signs up, it's unaffordable. There's
True.
not very many cities that do that. There are a few, but not very many. So the reason that we need to change it in our definition is because a candidate will be a person that applies. An applicant is actually somebody that's already passed the test. And so it doesn't align with the state 143. So the recommendation in this case is, under eligibility list, is that the list of applicants for a position who have taken the examination and passed, ranked on the list in the order of the score received. So we're changing the word candidate to applicant. And then that's going to align with the sections we're going to discuss going forward and how we apply the physical requirements to an applicant.
Okay.
I don't have that section. So yeah, the requirement at this point that we would ask the commission to consider is, the revision is to change under the eligibility list definition, the word candidate to applicant.
To applicant?
I'm trying to find this, I'm not seeing it.
It is going to be at the beginning of your local rules. Are you looking at the local rules or the?
Page what, Teresa?
6.
I mean, I'm tracking with the conversation because I remember the meeting where we discussed this.
And then the medical requirements, if you wanted to get that at the same time, is on page 38 and 40.
And that's section 111. There are going to be some revisions that we'll recommend for section 111, so we'll have some discussion on that one.
Okay, I got you. So it's going to be 143, where it says eligibility list, the list of applicants for a position who have taken it. We're changing that word, candidate to
Candidate to
applicant.
applicant.
Yeah, that makes sense, because then, once they pass, then they become candidates for the position, is that right?
Once they pass, they become applicants.
Which the local government code requires us to test. So they're candidates until they pass, and then they're applicants, and then we test.
Really?
Okay,
Yes.
I got it backwards, okay.
So basically,
It
after.
just seems to me that you'd be it's vice versa. You'd be-
Yeah, that's what
But if
I,
that's how they want to do it, I guess.
and that's how, and that reflects what the state is saying? Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Brian?
That's how we were doing it anyway for all these years. We never tested anybody till the end.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
So I'll just need a motion and a second to get that approved.
Move that we do the change?
Wording be changed, all right?
All right.
as indicated.
Okay. I don't think we need to vote on that, do we?
Okay, the next section, we'll make that change. Christina's going to pass out what we're going to discuss for
Thank you.
the recommendations for agenda item number 6. And Mr. Lopez, if you want to read the agenda item number 6, we can get into that. We can read through each of the sections and the recommended changes, if you'd like, together here in a minute.
Is there an additional copy to that? I'd like to see it.
I didn't bring an additional copy, you can have that one. It is. Yeah, probably this one. And that one's front and back, Kristen.
Okay, I got a question on G, polygraph examination.
Yeah, if you don't mind, if we can read the item number 6 on the agenda, so we can
Oh, sure.
start to discuss it, that'd be great.
Discussion of local government code 143, section 143.022, physical requirements and examinations, subsection B, and consideration of revising applicable civil service rules and regulations, section 45, content of examination. So under section 45, the proposed revisions
For G.
for G, I'm just curious if this is a typo. It says, polygraph exam will be administered to all civil service applicants for beginning positions to verify application and background. And this is a prerequisite to be placed on the eligibility list as an applicant. Should that read candidates for beginning positions?
The polygraph is actually done after
So it's done
they become an
after?
applicant. So the word applicant would be correct.
Yeah, well, that's.
Oh,
I was
you're
gonna
right.
say, that's the way all of them say in those 4. So they sign up as a candidate, they become an applicant if they pass the written exam at that point? Is that the way it's going to be?
Correct.
This is a wording deal. Well,
Yes.
D, E, F, and all of those say candidate in them instead of applicant, and I don't know if that's,
Except for G.
Except for G.
Prerequisite to be placed on the list of an applicant. G does not say that?
I would think that it should say candidate for beginning positions on G, since that's what it says on the others.
I understand. Okay. So it would read, a polygraph examination will be administered to all civil service candidates for beginning positions to verify application and background information, and then a prerequisite to be placed on the eligibility list as an applicant.
Correct.
so that's what I'm trying to get. At what point do they become an applicant? Is
They
it
become
right
an
after the
applicant
written?
After they've passed
Because
the
all this
written.
stuff takes place after the written test.
Yes.
So would they not be an applicant at that point?
They would be.
That's what I was asking, because they're only a candidate until they pass the
Exam.
written, is that correct? Or the way the wording's supposed to be?
Unless it includes all of these.
Well,
The
I know
pa- you mean-
us, we don't do any of this. You do the written test first, and all this comes after that. written
After the
test.
test.
Even PD, you guys do your physical after the written test, right? They have to pass it?
Passing it. I think it would probably be best if we start with A
Okay.
and go through these and see if there is something different that's recommended.
Okay, so that's applicants. I'd say that's probably a little thing.
Yeah, because see, all this, yeah, and that, all this comes after the written. The written gets them on the list, so if they're saying that you gotta pass the written, and then you become an applicant, all that happens afterwards.
Yeah, the reason I'm wondering is because
So they can listen.
Secret.
so 22 passed at that point.
Yeah.
So that, at that point, they are
So the
candidates.
example he's using on 3/3/23, 45 applied for PD.
On the daily
22
action
passed,
log.
so those 22 then become applicants.
Yeah, and as we're going through these, we can talk about kind of the process and what happens when they pass tests and we move forward through that. So I think that might be easier to understand. So A, written test. The written examination shall be passed on the candidate's knowledge of the qualifications for firefighters' work in the fire department or for police work in the police department is shown by competitive examination in the presence of all candidates for such positions and shall provide for thorough inquiry into the candidate's general education and mental ability. Weighing on a basis of 100% for perfection, 70% shall be the score for passing a written test for entrance positions, a prerequisite to be placed on the eligibility list as an applicant. So the words in red were originally or are currently applicants. We're changing them to candidates, and the intent is that they don't become an applicant until they pass this written test. Any questions about that one? Well, yes. So that makes sense as far as a prerequisite to be placed on the eligibility list as an applicant. Okay, so letter B. Veteran preference points. The only thing I'm adding here is the word points. I think that's a little better understood for applicants or candidates that are applying. Nothing else changed there. Letter C was previously H, and it showed up as just training and experience. This is, I'm adding a couple of words, proof of training and experience. Making some changes to the wording there so that this paragraph will start with shall be required and consist of questions on education and experience contained in application form and of such supplementary data that as may be furnished for certification and proof of statements made in the application, or it may consist of questions on training and experience asked at any time. There's one too many ats there. Any time during the hiring process. The director may, at his discretion, investigate the truth of the applicant's statement as to training and experience and govern his rating accordingly. Again, the only thing that's added is in red text. Any questions on that one? Okay, D is new, and this is just based on practice. There is a physical agility that happens for both police and fire after those written examinations. The physical agility will require the candidate for beginning positions to demonstrate the ability to perform the continual physical demands of the position, a prerequisite to be placed on the eligibility list as an applicant.
Okay, at this point is my question. If we're saying that they're, and the way it's worded, it isn't, it says it's a prerequisite, not the prerequisite on the written test. But in practice, I understand that once they pass the written test, they're essentially an applicant.
It's not just that, it's also the physical
So
agility
they
test.
have to do all of the above.
Yes.
Okay, that clears it up. That's what I wanted to verify that.
And we might have to change the wording in some of the others, but definitely the written test and the physical agility test have to be passed in order for you to become an applicant.
So they're not an applicant until after the physical?
The physical agility,
Okay.
okay? Now, for PD, it happens the same day. For fire, it's usually a week or two apart. 3 weeks apart.
Usually. I think
So
Patrick set it up.
it's not immediate. But if there's concerns with that, we can talk about it.
So they can pass a written, but they're really not an applicant until they pass the physical.
Physical agility.
Agility, I should say.
Okay, so E, also new personal history statement. A completed packet shall be required from every candidate that passes the written exam and the physical agility for beginning positions, a prerequisite to be placed on the eligibility list as an applicant. Now, this one may have to change. I think typically they pass physical agility and written, and then they're issued the packet to complete. So this one, not necessarily a prerequisite. I think at that point, they are applicants.
So referring back to the daily action log from March 27th. 45 applied, this is for the 3/3/23 rookie civil service exam. 45 applied, 3 pre-exam DQs. I guess those don't matter. 8 withdrawals don't matter. What's NCNS?
No call, no shows. They did not show up to
Okay.
the exam.
5 failed, 1 physical. Okay. So we're still tracking with where we're going.
What we're doing. Mhm.
Yeah.
So the only thing I guess I would change based on what's proposed is that we would take out on E, that last sentence, a prerequisite to be placed on the eligibility list as an applicant.
Okay.
Any questions or comments?
Doesn't it need to say applicant there?
Come to the mic, please.
Doesn't it need to say applicant? They would be an applicant at that point.
So a completed packet shall be required from every applicant that passed. Yes, that makes sense.
That's what I was saying earlier.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, F, criminal background investigation. The criminal background investigation will be conducted on all candidates for beginning positions. A prerequisite to be placed on the eligibility list as an applicant. I think this one also has to change.
To
At the
applicant.
point that you're in the background, you are an applicant. So it would say will be conducted on all applicants. And we would remove the last sentence. I'm sorry, I got prerequisite happy on all of these. Any questions or comments on that one? Okay, G, this is previously C, or currently C. Polygraph examination. A polygraph examination will be administered to all civil service applicants for beginning positions to verify application and background information, and a prerequisite to be placed on eligibility list. I think at this point they are also applicants, so we would remove that last sentence. The only other thing I added on this one is that it is for beginning positions in red text. The handout I gave you. H, this is previously D, oral interview. Making some changes, starting the paragraph with when required, a personal interview with applicants will be scheduled. I added that in red text for positions where ability to deal with others, to meet the public, and other personal qualifications are to be determined. Oral interview will be given by at least 3 officers of the appropriate department appointed by the chief of the department. The civil service director will also serve as an interviewer. In the police department, the Texas Commission of Law Enforcement officer standards and education procedures will be followed, and an applicant will either pass or fail. A prerequisite at this point, they are applicants as well, so we would take that sentence out. F was previously E, performance tests. I am recommending that we take this section out. There are other sections within the local rules that talk about performance tests in more detail. And this really doesn't give you much information either way. So, any questions about that one or comments?
No.
Okay, I was previously F. I added the word performance in here only to incorporate some of the tests that are currently going on. After someone's an applicant and they're made a conditional offer, they do some physical tests. They do a performance test over at West Texas Rehab that tests their ability to pull, push, lift the requirements based on the position that they'll be in. There is a physical examination that goes along with their health test as well. And that's just a basic health examination. It doesn't have anything to do with the performance piece of it. So appropriate performance, physical and health examinations shall be required of all applicants for beginning positions, and the examinations shall be given by a physician or physicians appointed by the commission and paid by such city. And in the event of rejection by such physicians, the applicant may call for further examination by a board of 3 physicians appointed by the commission, but at the expense of the applicant, and whose findings shall be final. The age and physical requirements shall be set by the commission in accordance with provisions of this law and shall be the same for all applicants. Minimum physical qualifications are listed in Rule, this is a huge, what was that, 29, Christine, when we looked at it? 29, Roman numeral 29. And these rules and regulations. So none of that's changing other than me adding performance and health in that very first sentence, and then plural physicians. Any questions on that one or comments?
No.
I am recommending to also take out what was previously G, currently G, adaptability and aptitude test. Like I mentioned, it sounds like this is, I'm not really sure what traits, I guess, they were looking for previously. The tests that we do now are just based on either the physical requirement of the position or any other kind of physical requirements that the commission sets forth. Any questions on that one?
No.
And then no changes are recommended for psychological certification. That was added in 2022. So if all that makes sense, we made notes of what to change based on the original recommendation and what we've discussed.
Sounds good.
Can we make one additional change under H? That's T close and it's T cold now.
Okay.
Can we change that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So if there's no other questions or comments, I'll just need a motion and a second and approval for that.
I'll make a motion to approve the changes with the corrections as noted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, you did? So if we could have agenda item number 7 read, we can move on with that one.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read number 7. Discussion of local government code 143, section 143.022, physical requirements and examinations, subsection B, and consideration of revising applicable civil service rules and regulations, section 111, medical requirements for firefighters and police officers, as approved at civil service meeting 4408, to clarify the time frame of the testing requirements and who the requirements apply to.
Okay, so I guess let me open by saying that this is, the intent of this item is to discuss the requirements for beginning positions. I think we do have to have a conversation about promotionals and what physical requirements the commission would like to set forth for those. We've discussed that in the past as well, but I think that needs to come back as a separate item so that we can have a discussion on that. So this is strictly for beginning positions. I did the same thing on this section that I did in the other. My recommendations are in red, and we can read through them. So in the local rules, this is section 111. Medical requirements for firefighters and police officers. There are some significant changes here. Current section 111 goes straight into, I believe, the requirements. So I'm sort of setting the stage with this one to introduce what the prerequisites are. The Civil Service Director will be responsible for developing and maintaining job descriptions that adequately describe the essential functions of each classified position. With the approval of the police chief and the fire chief, physical assessment examinations will be developed and implemented in accordance with guidelines established by the respective state commission and in compliance with all applicable employment laws. So at the point that the commission determines what the prerequisites need to be for promotions, this section will be helpful. But again, this is all for beginning positions. Prerequisites for consideration of employment applications are successfully passing the written examination, successfully passing the physical agility if required by the position, and meeting the applicable requirements under Section 27 and Section 45 of the Civil Service Rules and Regulations. Section 27 is it talks about your age requirements and the requirements by also TCOL. And we might have to change some things on there, but we'll bring all these back and discuss. But that's what Section 27 is, age requirements. If prerequisites are met, candidates are placed on the eligibility list as applicants. Applicants for original appointment and promotion in the classified service must meet the following medical requirements. Physical fitness, applicant is physically capable of performing the essential functions of the job assigned and is free from any condition which would adversely affect their ability to perform the essential function of the job. Psychological certification. This was added, or I'm recommending this to be added. It's not currently in there. For original appointment, the selected applicant must be in satisfactory psychological and emotional health. Vision, I'm just changing the word to applicant there. Same thing with the rest of those. Colorblindness, changing it to the word applicant, hearing, applicant, and blood pressure, applicant. previously it said candidate, and since we changed that definition, then we're changing that to applicant. Any questions or comments on these?
I have a nerdy lawyer comment. If we could change the bullets to letters or numbers, so if we ever have to cite it in a legal document, we can do that effectively. And then the notes, the end notes on these, like revised at Civil Service Meeting 12/19/19, we could take a look at how we do that on the Code of Ordinances and not put it as part of the text of the item, but just kind of as an annotation at the bottom. That would also be helpful. But that's a very helpful annotation.
Okay.
Veronica?
Yes.
And on the color blindness, we dealt with the situation. Do we need to put it in there, spell it out that it's correctable by certain special lenses, or do you just want to leave it? You have it in all the other correctable or corrected, and this one's not there. So.
Yeah, I think since it is correctable now, we can add that wording.
Are they still taking the Hashimoto?
The Ishihara?
Ishihara?
Yes.
Hashimoto?
I don't know what that
Torture,
is.
you're doing yourself.
We understood, we understood.
Yeah, there's glasses and I know contacts because there's
There are
several
glasses and
firefighters that
contacts
got
available.
contacts. Or she put a disease.
Okay.
So we'll make those changes. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question on the first one. So are you taking out, it says right now applicants for original appointment and promotion in the classified service. Are you taking promotion out right now?
I'm not taking promotion out right now. I think that could be better determined when we bring that back. There is in section 45 of the local rules, let me see if it's 45 or 46. And that's supposed to be, it's 46. That's supposed to be specific to promotions. I think once we make those changes based on what the commission directs, then we can go back and amend this if we need to take promotions out of there. There is a specific section for promotions that I think would be more applicable and make more sense, but when we bring that back, I think we can have that discussion.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
I do not have anything.
So
If I
when you, I guess I'm asking that because if you give a promotional test, you're saying they have to be, what do you have in place to test that?
I'm hoping to bring that back to you next month.
Okay.
And so we do have a promotional exam coming up, but we shouldn't have anybody, well, we might, I guess, depending on how early we have it next month. But I do plan to bring that back to you next month as soon as we can. If you're asking what practice is right now.
I know what the practice is.
Okay. We would continue with the practice until we got different direction.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
I don't, if they got anything.
Comment?
If I could get a motion and second and approval for that.
Okay. I move that all changes be approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I think that's the last item on the agenda, so,
That is, and depending on how big the promotional item is for next meeting, Teresa and I plan on going through at some point the entire local rules and making recommendations on how to move forward with either recommending changes because of practice or asking questions, so we can clean that up. We might start doing that at the next meeting as well.
okay. Okay. Nothing else? I move to adjourn.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.